All right, 8th graders, we're going to go on to lesson 5-2. We're going to talk about relations and functions. Relations, a relation is a set of ordered pairs. It's a set of numbers, okay? And the numbers will be from graphs or from situations where you can find a pattern in numbers. Those patterns in numbers, those pairs of numbers, are called ordered pairs. All right? Now, when you're given a set of ordered pairs, or you're given some data, you can tell whether this relation, whether this group of numbers is a function or not by looking at the numbers and seeing if any of the x numbers, the input numbers, also called the domain numbers, have more than one value. Okay? So when you look at this set of numbers, -2 goes with -1, and later on, -2 also goes with 1. If that is the case, then this group of numbers is not a function. See that? When I put these out on the chart, this is called a t-chart, has the x values and the y values. And when -2, one of the x values has more than one y value, then this group of numbers is not a function. Okay? This is not a function. Look at, when we took this group of numbers, oh, I'm sorry, this is a function, right. This is a function. This group of numbers, when we listed them as the x values and the y values, none of the x values have 2 y values, but the y values have more than one x value. That's okay for the y values to have more than one x value. You just can't have an x value with more than one y value. So in this case, 2 has -1 and 2 has 4. Okay? So that is not a function. This case is not a function. This case is a function. Alright? Oh, this is just listing it this way. It shows this way in your book, that's why I showed it that way. I prefer to show it this way, because I think it's clearer when you can see that 2 has 2 numbers, -1 and 4. Whenever one number in the x column has more than one number in the y column, that's not a function. Okay? Now, there's another way to look at this. If you're given a graph, and let me erase this line to start with. If you're given a graph like this, and so in this case, the number 2 goes with 4, and the number 2 goes with -1. Right here. Okay? Now, the vertical line test is a test that you do to see if any of these dots are on a vertical line. If any of these dots are on a vertical line, that shows you that this is not a function. That this graph is not a function graph. It's not a graph of a function. Okay? Anytime you can cover up 2 dots with one vertical line, and it has to be perfectly straight up and down.
2 or more.
2 or more, yep. Then it's not a function. Any questions on that? Do you understand that?
What if it's like side to side? Will
Side.
it be a function?
Okay, good question. What if you had, in other words, what if you had a dot over here and it was a horizontal line? That is a function. If it was just these 2 dots and the line went straight across, that is a function. Okay? But if the line covers 2 or more going up and down, then it is not a function. Okay? Any questions on that? What's the domain then? Which set of numbers is the domain?
The first number.
Yes, the x numbers. Okay, the first numbers in the ordered pair. Those are all the, so if it says list the domain of these numbers, you could list them like this: 4, 6, 8, and 10. Those are the domain of this set. The range numbers are 0, 5, and 9. Now notice I didn't say 0, 5, 0, and 9, because when you're listing the numbers, you don't have to list them twice. Okay? And in fact, you list them using little brackets. So if I wanted, it said list the domain, you can also remember that the domain is the first because D comes before R.
Alphabet.
And in the alphabet, so the D, the domain numbers are listed first.
Just like X.
The range listed last. Yep.
Just like X.
So if you're listing the values, you'd list them as 4, 6, 8, and 10, and then end brackets. If it said list the range of this relation, then you would list it as 0, 5, and 9, and then end brackets. Notice I didn't list the 0 twice. Okay? Any questions about that? All right. That's it for,
Well, first of all, how would you know which X will go with which Y in the thing below?
well, it's not asking that. It's just asking you to list the domain of the relation. So then it doesn't matter which numbers go with which. It's just telling you to list the first number, list the x values. Okay? Now, one of the things that you have to do in this lesson is to use a function to find an output. All right? So this is an example. I want you to write this down. Whenever you have a function, it is written with this symbol, like f of x is read the function of x. Okay?
So it's not function times X?
So, no, this does not mean a function times x. This is, you read this as the function of x equals 3x plus 4. Everybody read that with me. The function of x equals 3x plus 4. Okay? Now, what it might say is find the function given these numbers for x. Okay? Find the function, or find the numbers, the output, given if you're given these numbers. So what you do is you put these numbers into this function by replacing the number that's listed with the x in the function, in the equation. Okay? So here we have it. 3 times 0, because this is 3 times x, so we replace 0, replace the x with 0. 3 times 0 plus 4 is 4. So these are an ordered pair. This is the output when 0 is the input. Does everybody see that?
Where the x is
Where you put, that's where you put the number. Okay? And when you put in 1 into the function, then 3 times 1 plus 4 is 7. And 7 is the output. And when you put in 2, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 4 is 10. So 10 is the output. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Here's another example. The function of x equals -4 times x. So here's what you would do. You would do -4 times 1 which is negative 4. Negative 4 times 2, which is negative 8. Negative 4 times 3, which is negative 12. And negative 4 times 4, which is negative 16. And you're just finding these values. Any questions on that part? No? So that's using a function to find an output. All right? Mainly this lesson is just getting used to the vocabulary and getting used to reading these and being comfortable with the language. It's like learning a new language when we're talking about relations and functions and domain and range and input and output and so on. Okay?